worse. When we didn't have, when African Americans could not vote, you would say, well, just think of it. In other countries, it's just infinitely worse. And the World Bank probably would have given us an A rating. So, the idea that we are not living through unprecedented times, is an unbelievably elitist idea that can... No, let me just finish, because this is like from people who are comfortable, like we are privileged to be, those of us here on the stage, but just look at what's happening. 100 million Americans right now are worse off than their parents were.
So you're saying, Arianna, we are in a situation that reflects ungovernability.
And also that throughout our history, we've always aimed to do better. We've believed that we can do better.
Are we in the mess, the mess of absolute gridlock that I think is being described by your opponent?
Well, I think that Arianna put it very, very well. There was a time when there was slavery, and there was a time when women couldn't vote, and there was a time when African Americans couldn't, when African Americans couldn't vote. And all those things no longer are the case.
They all changed.
And they all changed under the two-party system, which is the subject that we're debating tonight. The fact that there are imperfections in America is obvious. And the fact that there are people in America who are suffering is a constant.
So, David Brooks, why is it different this time?
Because it wasn't always thus. If you go back to, say, 30 years ago, and you look at the two parties, in the first place, the two parties overlapped in Congress. Now they do not. There's no common ground between them. In the second place, if you look at the things they were able to do, like tax reform in 1986, you had a whole series of bipartisan agreements. If you cover Congress the way I do, you had in those days a whole series of personal relationships. That simply doesn't exist, and that's one of the reasons.
So you think there was something of a golden era, a silver era?
No, there was a period of constructive competition. They fought. Aaron Burr killed Alexander Hamilton. I regard that as highly polarizing. But they fought to balance each other's weaknesses, and now they fight to stagnate.
I think this is a normal, it's a normal sine wave in American politics. After all, the 1930s, the New Deal was not exactly a period of huge bipartisanship, The bipartisan ideal is always like a little worrisome to me. I consider actually the two most dangerous words in Washington to be bipartisan consensus. It's kind of like when my wife and my doctor and my lawyer all agree that I need help. What is the alternative? My biggest concern is that in a multi-party system, it leads to power in small, screwy ideologies.
Let me put to the side arguing that you think that the system is making America ungovernable. Are you arguing for a better functioning two-party system, or are you arguing for a multi-party system?
Well, we are arguing for something that will shake up the current dysfunctional system.
But what? I don't want the garden gnome party holding the balance of power.
Arianna
subsidized garden gnomes everywhere.
Let Arianna have the mic.
I thought that was Michael Dukakis.
For the record, that was David Brooks.
The truth at the moment is that as an immigrant to this country, as somebody who's lived the American dream, I'm fully aware of the fact that the American dream is dying for millions of Americans. Now we are number 10 when it comes to upward mobility. We are behind France and Germany. Excuse me, but being behind France in upward mobility is like France being behind us in croissants and afternoon sex.
But to PJ's point about the school, it's just your dumb kids. Why is that about the two-party system and not about everything else?
Well, the idea that it's dumb kids that are the problem is just, it's just charming PJ. I mean, whatever PJ says is charming because he's funny, but it's not true.
And that's our debate for this evening. Zev Chafetz, come on in.
Well, I would say not true is, that's pretty definitive. The notion of being in a debate with Arianna Huffington arguing that America has lost its ability to have upward mobility is a startling experience. And I want to say something about David's notion about bipartisanship. Two things quickly. First of all, polarization is a good thing, not a bad thing. In countries where you don't have polarized political debate, you have no debate. Civility does not equal democracy. And I just want to say the following words. No Child Left Behind, which was passed in a bipartisan way, the Medicare prescription, the tax cuts, the Bush tax cuts, the Iraq War, which, like it or not, was a bipartisan affair, the TARP stuff, the health care bill, which was passed in a monopartisan
David
way.
Brooks,
But all of these things have been passed in the last 10 years.
Right.
That's quite a lot of progress for a
on the
paralyzed
civility point,
system.
screw off, you fat bastard. No. No, let's go. No, I believe in conflict. I'm a columnist. Conflict is fine with me. I'm fine with that as long as it's constructive. The problem is we have parties that don't represent the country. We now have, here's a fact from Morris Fiorina, Stanford political scientist. More people own ferrets than watch Fox News. But we have a party
Isn't there a lot
that's...
of overlap?
That's a good point, yeah. Glenn Beck's ferret is loose. But we have a party that's sort of dictated by that small group. And in the Democratic Party, we have a party dictated by the public sector employee unions. And you've got vast numbers of people whose views are not basically represented. So the country is still a bell curve country, and the rest of the society and the two-party system is not. And therefore, you don't have the normal
Describe what you mean by bell curve.
A bell curve is like this, most people in the middle. And so you don't have construction, you don't have constructive competition, which would be us talking and then reaching an agreement after an hour. You just have, you guys suck.
But David, can I just say that in the last election, the Republicans nominated John McCain. A more reasonable Republican than that would be hard to find. And the Democrats nominated Barack Obama. I don't think that you can make the case that these are extremists who don't talk to one another or who aren't civil with one another.
Compare pre-nomination John McCain to post-nomination John McCain and see what a guy has to do to get elected.
Voter participation is down. The bickering is up. Why? That part of the debate right after the break.
In the end, Churchill was right. He said,